stop. Before you hit skip, I need you to hear this. Right now, somewhere in this country, a 34-year-old is lying in bed next to a spouse who stopped asking questions 2 years ago. He's staring at the ceiling. The mortgage is current, the car payment is current, his 401k is mediocre, and he's dying on the inside. Not because he's poor, because he almost played it safe his entire life and almost believed that good enough was the same thing as living. That man used to be the most ambitious person in every room he walked into, and the room killed him. This video was not for him. It's too late. This video was for the version of him 3 years ago who still had fire in his chest and no one to tell him what to do with it. Here's the question nobody asks out loud. What is the actual cost of becoming wealthy? Not the financial cost, not the strategy cost, the human cost. The cost measured in birthdays you missed, in friendships that dissolved, in a version of yourself you had to bury in order to build the next one. Nobody in the personal finance space will answer that question honestly, because the honest answer is terrifying. And I'm going to give it to you raw in the next 10 minutes. But first, I need you to understand something fundamental about the way wealth is actually built. Not the Instagram version, not the podcast version, the real version. The one that costs you everything before it pays you back double. Let me show you the math of mediocrity. The average person wakes up at 7, commutes, attends meetings they didn't schedule for goals they didn't set. They eat lunch at their desk, they go home, they consume 3 hours of content, they sleep. Repeat for 40 years. At the end, Social Security, a pension if they're lucky, a lifestyle that is narrower than the one they had at 35. This is not a retirement plan. This is a slow motion surrender. And the cruelest part? Nobody told them it was happening. The system is designed to make you comfortable enough not to revolt, comfortable enough to keep consuming, too tired to build. The middle class is not a financial bracket, it's a psychological trap. It tells you that balance is wisdom, that ambition is greed, that people who work 80 hours per week are missing out. Missing out on what? Trivia nights? Fantasy football? Binge watching a show about someone else living a larger life than yours? The middle class confuses comfort with safety, and in doing so, it trades the only asset that can never be recovered: time. Now, let me say the thing that will make half of you close this tab. Balance is a lie. Not a harmless lie, a generational wealth-destroying lie. Balance is the advice given by people who already have the resources to afford it. It is the philosophy of the comfortable, handed down to the ambitious as if it applies. It does not apply. When you are building from zero, when you have no capital, no leverage, no team, no system, balance is not a virtue, it's a forfeit. You're not Warren Buffett optimizing a portfolio. You are in a war for your financial life. And in war, you do not seek equilibrium. The most dangerous myth in self-help culture is that high performance is sustainable without cost, that you can build an empire and be home for dinner every night. That hustle culture is a scam, and anyone who works past 6 p.m. has a mindset problem. Here's the truth. There is a season for everything. In the season you are in right now. If you're watching this and you have nothing yet, it is a building season. And building seasons are brutal by nature. The question is not whether you'll pay the cost. The question is when. Pay now, in sweat and isolation, in sacrifice. Or pay later, in regret and dependency, and a life that was never fully yours. Let me give you the framework, not a motivational poster, a mechanical blueprint. There are 4 non-negotiable pillars to high-performance wealth accumulation. Remove any one of them, and the whole structure collapses. Pillar 1, the hour asymmetry. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is not leisure time. It is prime real estate. While your peers are decomposing in front of a screen, those 4 hours, compounded across 365 days, equals 1,460 hours per year of untouched building time. That is the equivalent of 36 full-time work weeks applied to one focused goal. Every year, that is your competitive advantage. Protect it with violence. Pillar number 2, capital concentration. Stop spreading your time. Most people work 8 hours and produce 2 hours of real output. High performers invert this. They eliminate everything that doesn't compound. One income stream to start, one skill to monetize, one offer to perfect. Concentration is the engine. Diversification is for people who already have something to diversify. Pillar 3, the leverage stack. At some point, your time becomes the ceiling. Before that happens, you build systems that work when you don't. SOPs, automation, strategic hiring, every dollar you reinvest in leverage before you need it buys you altitude. You cannot see the full landscape from the ground. Pillar number 4, identity architecture. This is the one nobody talks about because it is the most painful. You must become someone different, not a better version of who you are, someone structurally different. Different inputs, different standards, different circle. You cannot pour dynasty level thinking into a scarcity programmed identity. The transformation is not optional. It is the price of admission. Now, here is the section no one will show you because it is uncomfortable, because it makes wealth look like what it actually is, a lonely, often terrifying process of becoming. This is the month-by-month reality of year 1. Months 1 and 2, the euphoria and the exit, the silent transition. The first 60 days feel electric. You've made a decision. Decisions feel like action. They're not. You are still running on the fuel of disruption. The novelty is doing the heavy lifting, not you. The people around you don't know yet. You haven't told them you're protecting the flame from wind. Document everything. Your baseline finances, your baseline beliefs, who you spend time with and for how long. This is your before photograph. You'll need it in month 9 to understand how far you've traveled. Set the one negotiable daily output. One thing, done before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m. every single day without exception. The discipline of these 2 months is not about the outcome. It's about building the habit of keeping promises to yourself. This is the foundation. Everything else is built on it. Months 3 through 5, social ghosting. Killing FOMO through data. This is when the social friction begins. The group chat slows down your responses. You start saying no to things. People start saying, "You've changed." They're right. That's the point. FOMO is not an emotion. It is a data error. Your brain is comparing short-term social belonging against long-term compound interest. The comparison is invalid. Run the actual math. A 3-hour Saturday outing traded against building time is a future asset exchange for a current dopamine spike. That is arithmetic, not judgment. Batch your social commitments to 1 window per week. You are not a monk, but you are not available on demand anymore. When the FOMO hits, open your progress document. Look at month 1. Look at now. Data kills emotion. Months 6 through 8, the identity crisis. Shedding the old skin in the void. Welcome to the void. You're no longer the person you were. You are not yet the person you're becoming. This is the most dangerous phase of the entire journey. More people quit here than anywhere else. Not because the work is too hard, because the identity vacuum is unbearable. Your old friends don't fully understand you. Your new peers haven't accepted you yet. You exist in a threshold, and thresholds are designed to be temporary. The danger is staying. Name the discomfort. Write it down. I feel like I don't belong anywhere. That sentence on paper is no longer an identity. It is a data point. Find one person who is 18 to 24 months ahead of you on the same path. A specific human who has crossed the void and can describe the other side. Protect your physical baseline viciously. Sleep, protein, movement. The psychological toll of hypergrowth is real. Your body is processing a transformation. It needs fuel. The void is not a crisis. It is confirmation that the transformation is working. Months 9 through 11, high performance grind. Replacing motivation with systems. Motivation is dead. It died around month 7. Good. Motivation is an amateur tool. It is weather dependent. Cannot build a dynasty on weather. What you have now, if you survive the void, is identity level commitment. You're no longer motivated to build. You are simply someone who builds. Systematize everything that repeats. Any reoccurring task that doesn't require your highest cognitive function should have a system, a checklist, or a delegate. Your genius is not for admin. Implement a weekly review. Every Sunday, 45 minutes, last week's output versus targets. Bottlenecks identified. This week's non-negotiables confirmed. No review, no clarity, no velocity. Introduce a performance anchor, a physical ritual that signals to your nervous system we are now operating at full capacity. Cold shower, specific playlist, exact workspace. The brain responds to pattern. You're not grinding anymore, you are operating. Grinding is emotional. Operating is mechanical. Operating scales, grinding burns out. Month 12 plus, the first glimpse, realizing the isolation built the man. At some point in month 12, something happens. You look back, and the person you were 12 months ago is gone. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, just gone. The isolation did not cost you your relationships, it filtered them. The people who stayed are part of your dynasty. The people who left were always temporary. Document the transformation. Year 1 data. Detail. This document becomes the foundation of your own philosophy, the one you will eventually pass to the next generation. Re-enter the social world on your terms. You're not the same person who left. Bring back something of value, not just wealth, perspective. Identify your next 12-month target. The engine is built. Now you point it at something larger. Nietzsche wrote, "One must have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star." He wasn't talking about productivity. He was talking about the friction of ambition, the internal war between who you have been, conditioned to be, and who you are capable of becoming. Most people resolve that war by surrendering to their conditioning. It's easier. The world rewards surrender with comfort and punishes resistance with isolation. But here's what the comfortable never tell you. The people who built anything worth remembering were not balanced. They were consumed. Michelangelo, Carnegie, Jobs, Bezos, Musk, every name that has ever bent the arc of history did so at personal cost that would make most modern self-help gurus weep. This is not an endorsement of chaos for its own sake. Chaos without direction is destruction. But directed obsession, focused, systemized, philosophically grounded obsession is the most powerful force available to a human being. You're not trying to optimize your morning routine. You are trying to build something that outlives you. Those are different missions that require different tools, different sacrifices, different standards. The world does not need another person who found work-life balance at 32. The world needs people who are willing to be forged. Here's the last thing I'm going to say, and I want you to hear it in your chest, not your head. Everything we've talked about today, the isolation, the void, the 80-hour entry fee, the social friction, the identity death and rebirth, none of it is about money. Money is a byproduct. What you're actually doing when you protect your 6 to 10 window and kill your FOMO and survive the void and replace motivation with systems, you are building a proof of concept for the next generation. You are building the story that your children will tell, the standard they will inherit, the names they will carry into rooms you will never enter. That's what a dynasty is. It is not a net worth, it's a generational transfer of capability. The loneliness you feel right now, it's not a punishment. It is the sound of someone becoming the first in the family to refuse comfort, the first to build something that compounds, the first to look the void in the face and say, "I am not done." Most people will die broke because they choose the easier story. You're watching this because somewhere inside you, you know you were built for the harder one. Go build it. The dynasty doesn't start when you're rich. It starts the night you decide you refuse to be anything less.